Hey, Bruce Neal, your Boomer Consumer. Today, this episode is all about this, the Topping D90LE Dac. And I just wanted to say, before we get to the review of this thing, this is one of the most impressive pieces of hardware I've reviewed on this channel. So without further ado, let's get to the review. This episode is all about the Topping D90LE Dac. Now, as a disclaimer, this was sent to me by APOS, for review. However, all opinions are my own, and no one has reviewed this video prior to posting. And this is a loaner unit, so it's not mine to keep. So there is that. Let's talk a little bit about what this DAC is. So this is a fully balanced Sabre DAC, and it supports PCM up to 32 bits, 768 kilohertz, and DSD to 1024. If you get the SE model, that will support MQA. The LE does not. This is also what they call multi-amp. So you can output via XLR or RCA or both at the same time. That keeps you from having to plug and unplug the different amps based on the way you want to do things. There are 6 different inputs on this DAC. You get AES, Bluetooth, USB, optical, coax, and I2S. Now the DAC chip inside is the ESS Sabre ES9030 Pro chip, and it has a 16-core XMOS processor priced at $799, and it also comes with a 2-year warranty. For more information, more detailed information, I have a link to the APOS website down below in the description. So this ships with a remote control. You get a Bluetooth antenna, power cord, USB cable, user manual, and a warranty card. That's all provided in the box. So I thought we'd begin by taking a tour of the front of the D90. And what you're going to do is you have your power button here, and it's a multifunction button, so it's used to turn it off and on and also make selections. So we press and hold the button, it'll come up, and it's pre-configured right now to use the optical input and work in preamp mode. So that's what this button's for. And then here's your display. And you see it's optical to RCA out. I don't have balanced equipment here. Then you have the sample rate of the music that's playing is 44.1 kilohertz. And then it's PCM. And then you use these buttons here, these right here, to adjust the volume. You can adjust the volume up and down, so you can use it in preamp function. Now, I really could just get by with DAC mode, but that is what is on the front of the unit. Okay, let's take a look at the back of the D90LE, and you can see that you have balanced outputs, and then you have single-ended outputs right here. I2S, your optical, USB, AES, and of course for power and your on and off switch. And this is the, I put that back on there, but this is where your Bluetooth antenna would go. And then also your coaxial input right here. So this thing has a ton of connectivity on here. Just about anything you could want, you can hook up to the Topping D90LE. Again, the SE will work with MQA, where this by itself is does not. So the D90 comes with a nice little remote here, and it really makes it a lot easier to use this, maybe sitting in your chair. So let's just kind of go over some of the buttons on here. This is your standby button. You have a mute on here, volume up, volume down. So you have those. This is not used for anything. This changes the line outputs. This is for your 7 different filters. This button here is invalid as well. And then you have auto, which, so when it starts hearing music, it'll automatically power itself off. In other words, it starts getting a signal from your streamer, whatever, it'll turn on. And then after so long of an activity, it turns itself off. And then this button adjusts the brightness of the display on the front. Okay, so I thought we would go over how to use the setup on here. And what you want to do is you want to press and hold the power button on the front, then flip on the power on the back, and now you're in setup mode right there. So the first selection is auto mode. So again, if it detects incoming signal, it will power up the topping or take it out of sleep mode. And then so long in inactivity, it will turn it off. Then your second option is for the display. And on the display, the brightness, whether you want low, medium, or high brightness. Pressing down the select button, your line out mode, and I have this set to pre, but I could change that simply to DAC. Then the default output that I want to use is RCA. Keep going. Okay, Bluetooth is turned off, and I did test it with Bluetooth, and it worked just fine. Absolutely no problem connecting to it. Then on down is your PCM filter, and I believe there's 7 different filters. Honestly, I really couldn't tell a difference in the filters, so I just left it at the preset on there. So on your DSD, you have several different settings on there. You have mode 1, which is 47 kilohertz, mode 2, 50 kilohertz, mode 3, which is 60 kilohertz, mode 4, which is 70 kilohertz. Coming on down, we have the IIS, the I squared S phase on here, and it's either in standard or it's in reverse phase. More options. Coming to the IIS DSDR, 2 settings on there, either DSDR using LRCLK or DSDR using data. Now coming down to the next option is your DSD flag. And on that setting, the default is going to be set pin 15 as the flag, which is the default, and then you can set pin 14 as the flag bit as well. Coming on down, your phase normal. And basically that's going to be normal polarity, and then your phase invert, or you can choose phase invert, which would invert the polarity. Now, output level, I just have this set to 0 dB maximum output level, as you know, when it comes up, because I use my remote on my integrated amp or my headphone amplifier to adjust the volume. So I want the full volume coming out of here, and I kind of ran it this way for testing purposes. It was kind of interesting on the where it says sound mode off. My instructions, what came from the manual, is basically save settings and restart. But you can see there's been a few changes apparently in the manual. Balanced, again, if you want to use the balanced outputs, there you go. 15 is save and exit, and 16 is your factory reset. But basically, once you set this thing up and you just hit the select, save and exit, and now we're going back into the way it would normally operate. The way I tested this is I used several different amps with this, all right? I used an NAD 316B V2 integrated amplifier, my Pioneer SX D7000, which is a fully restored vintage Pioneer unit. I also used the Topping A90 amp, which I'm going to do in a separate review, and as well as a Yamaha AS501 integrated amplifier. And with for listening, I use this with my Hi-Fi Man Edition XS headphones, which are probably one of the best pair of headphones you can get under $500. I just love them to pieces. I have a link to those down below as well if you want to check them out for yourself. For speakers, my Wharfdale Lindens, as well as the Klipsch RP600Ms. For music, well, I have a demo list, probably about 150 different songs in there from artists such as Norah Jones, Sade, Alana Taylor, Giant Sand, Little Feat, just a ton of different sources or different songs and genres on there. Everything from classical, jazz, R&B, you name it. I've got a little bit of everything in there. I've reviewed multiple more affordable DACs. I've never reviewed a $5,000, $10,000 DAC, but I can tell you this much. For day-to-day use, I generally use like a Shit Modi 3 DAC. I've used a couple different DACs from Topping, their budget models. I think the D10S. I've used their D30 model. bottom line, this DAC is really special. I could not imagine something sounding so much better. I always kind of thought most DACs should sound the same, but just things really opened up with this. The music seemed more alive. I didn't get fatigued listening to music for hours on end. And by hours on end, I mean this thing has ran about 12 hours a day for the last week, listening to all kinds of music for a very, very long period of time. Never got fatigued. You know, the bass extension is one of the things that surprised me. Things that I thought had a lot of bass had even more clarity, had even more punch. The kick drums had more bite to them. Vocals sounded more crisp and alive. The high end never felt tiring or fatiguing, but it just had this warmth to it that I had not heard in any of the other DACs that I reviewed. And this has been around for a while, and this is a very highly reviewed DAC, and probably one of the best deals as far as a DAC goes for under $1,000. It just did real justice to the music that I was listening to, and it really took listening up to a whole nother level. It really kicked things up a notch. Again, I tried the various filters, couldn't really tell a big difference, so I just left it a default. As far as streaming services, for gear, I use the Weem Mini, which I happen to love. I think it's one of the best deals on the market if you're looking for a streamer. With an optical connection, I used it with a CD player, NAD C538 CD player, just using the CD player as a transport. Again, and that has, I think, a Wolfson DAC in it. And this just took, again, the sound to a little bit higher level of quality and detail that I did not notice with the internal DAC of the NAD CD player. So it had all that going for it. This truly is, I think, one of the best values for under $1,000 for a DAC. And I'll probably go ahead and buy one of these for myself going forward. It's going to be hard to get any other DAC in this price range with this kind of build quality, the feature set, and the performance for like $800 is, I think, is the retail price for this DAC. I do love this DAC, and I highly recommend it. If you've got the budget for around $800 to spend on a DAC, I think this is going to last you a really long time. I just enjoy this thing so much. Just color me super impressed with the Topping D90LE Dac. Bruce Naylor, your Boomer Consumer. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.